So this is all well and good, being able to use Fiddler to call the API, but how can we really integrate this with some other system? Well, to prove that, what we did here is we created an application in Python. Okay. Now this is really just a top-down module, and essentially what it does, in conjunction with our own APIs, it hits Twitter APIs and logs tweets. Okay. So the very first API is going to call here. If we look at this block right here, this whole thing, what this is doing, it's hitting the Twitter rate limit API. Twitter, for APIs that don't require authentication, which is the case for the particular APIs that we need to call, Twitter allows 150 requests per hour, and that's going to be based on the caller's IP. Okay, so if we've hit 150 requests in 1 hour, well, aside from being blacklisted, there's really not a whole lot we can do, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing here. Check the rate limit. We don't have any remaining hits. We'll just bail. We'll try the next time this service runs. Okay, now before we get really up in the guts of this logic here, what we need to look at next, we need some way of persistent storage, because what we need to do is store, for every user that's tweeting within your community, we need to store the ID of their last tweet. That way the next time this service runs, we'll know what we have, what we don't have, what they tweeted since the last thing that we've stored. Okay. Now there's any number of ways you can do persistent storage. Obviously you can use your own database, you can use the Google App Engine, you can do a file system, or you can do what we did here and use our own custom field engine. Now custom fields are essentially a way to expand user data beyond our native fields. So to expand user data beyond your typical email, first name, last name, the things that we generally store. Okay. So what we did here, and this is going to be in the admin panel under profile fields, custom fields. Okay. We created a custom field and we call it last Twitter status ID. Make sure that we uncheck, is this a required field? No, of course not. Is this field searchable? Absolutely not. And we save it. Okay, so now we have a new field to store the ID of the last tweet. So how do we use this in conjunction with our APIs? Well, if we go back to Fiddler here and we do a get of a random sampling of users, and the way we do that is we just use the URL rest/v1/users. We execute this, interrogate the results, and notice there's a custom fields node now. This last custom field is named last Twitter status ID, and for this particular user it has an empty value, which makes sense because we haven't actually run the application yet.